Good afternoon, everyone. This is KD, live on location in Caroline, North Carolina. Here I am with our latest new correspondent. I'd like to introduce Mr. Thomas. Wait for the car to pass. Mr. Thomas Freightliner.
This is Thomas Freightliner, special correspondent for KD After Dark on location.
At
large here in Caroline, North Carolina. And I would like for us to take a few minutes maybe to look around on the other side and see what town is on the other side of the sign that we're leaving from. Oh, it's also Caroline, North Carolina. Today we're here with a special story that made it 60 miles all the way to the Charlotte Observer of the 1968 Great Caroline Bank Robbery.
Mr. Crawford, you see that bridge there? Very familiar with that.
Yes, sir.
That's the Second Broad River going winding around Caroline to Henrietta to Cliffside and parts unknown. I knew an old boy that grew up here in the 1950s and said this was a real wild swinging place. He said they used to sit on that bridge and count cars. But I want to get back to your story, and here we are on location.
Yes, this was actually, the gate is still here that went down to the bank where the robbery occurred. It was payday. We got to realize it was payday, and Burlington Mills paid out in cash. They didn't
No
issue
payroll
paper
checks?
No paper checks. It was all cash. So the people would come in and present a voucher, and they would get their money, and the general public would also bank here. So these two bank robbers actually robbed the bank and put the money in a canvas bag. Somewhere it was believed to be close, since it was payday, close to $200,000. And the bank robbers, of course, the only way is to come up the steps and cross the road. And we will see that is actually the newer bank, okay, that was built after the bank that was robbed. And then you see the hickory nut tree there above the bank is the residence of Willie Lane, the mill engineer. Willie was home for lunch when the bank robbers approached and asked if they had any guns that they could borrow. Willie promptly showed them the barrel of a 12-gauge shotgun, and his son Alan was home from NC State on break, and he was preparing a bow and arrow to finish the job if that would have been necessary.
So they escaped temporarily, right?
Well, they still have not been caught. They escaped, and there are spur lines that run to Caroline to Henrietta, even to the corporate headquarters of KD After Dark at large in Cliffside, and these spur lines would meet up at larger lines. So the legend is that they got the train to get away, and they buried the money somewhere between Caroline on the spur line that meets to the bigger line in Ellenburg. And of course, us as kids, we look for it, the whole public looked for it, but that money is still missing. It has not been reported as being found by the Department of Treasury.
So how earnest were you and the young men of Caroline walking in lines looking for a canvas bag?
We were 6 years old, and we were tired of putting pennies down on the railroad track to make them into bigger quarters and try to feed those into the vending machines and the Pepsi machines. We really thought this was going to be big time. If we could get that money, that was going to be big. We weren't worried about the reward. We wanted the money. So we spent a lot of time looking for that canvas bag, digging around in the dirt and everything else.
But any speculation of what happened?
As I said, the money hadn't been recovered, and through the years, periodically people come and they look for the money and look for see if they can find that canvas bag, but it has never been recovered. And the two thieves that robbed the people's money, the mill people's money, decided they wouldn't come back, but they haven't been caught yet. So not only is KD After Dark at large, these thieves may be still alive and at large.
And maybe holding on to $100,000. Where did the idea that they tossed the bag come from?
Well, it was the fact that if they got caught when they hopped the train, maybe they wouldn't have the evidence.
Yeah, but who let that out that they might have done that? Was that just speculation?
Well, back in that time, you know, women, they did a lot of calling around, and I think that was the general consensus of the women that were dialing the 657 numbers and talking to each other. That's actually what happened. But who knows? You know, there are a lot of beauty shop gossip that indicated that, and there was also a lot of phone calls around that indicated that. So the preponderance of evidence shows that it probably was dropped somewhere.
Okay, so as we close out this little segment, I do need to ask you now, you're a Caroline boy, grew up here. I'm a Cliffside boy, grew up right down the road. But however, there's a small little town in between where there was, how do I want to say this the nicest way possible, a little bit of tension. My dad said that it was just not a good idea for the Cliffside boys to go to Henrietta.
Cliffside and Henrietta was a big rivalry. Caroline and Henrietta was not as big a rivalry, but there was something about Caroline and Cliffside and Henrietta. Cliffside, yeah, you guys had a movie theater. Okay?
That's
you
right.
Had the big hardware
and I
store.
seemed like Dad said
the movie theater was where a lot of stuff happened, because it was walking. It wasn't anybody riding a car. You'd walk down there to the Cliffside boys and the Henrietta boys would get into it, and there'd be a fight and rock throwing, and that was a big rivalry there. Caroline, we were kind of on the other end, but Henrietta was in the middle. They got the brunt from both sides.
Well, just to show where we stand in the pecking order, sir, I was told by some women in Forest City that grew up in Forest City, they were told, don't ever go past Alexander Mills, because anything below that was just pure white trash.
Well, we had that a lot at times when we would go to Forest City, and I can relate a story that my dad told me, because it was payday, and we went to Forest City to get necessities in Eagles dime store. Some people may remember Eagles dime store.
My mother worked there as a teenager, yeah.
And I remember one of the cashiers saying, "You can tell it's payday because the lint heads are in here." And I didn't know what that meant, so I asked my dad. I said, what does that mean, a lint head? He said, "Son, all you got to know is that I earned every dollar that I made, and we're going to spend that money, and that person behind that counter don't care where it came from. They're going to put it in that cash register."
Beautiful.
And I always remembered that.
Beautiful. Well, Mr. Freightliner, it's been a great introductory video. I hope to have many more from you, and I'll let you wind this on out.
Well, just please tune in to KD After Dark at Large, and you'll get more good local history. We're not making this stuff up. It actually happened.
And with that, there they go, somebody. I don't know who that was. And so with that, we'll wish you a fond farewell for now.